Coming to you live from Darshan Studios, it's Zinc Comics Exposition with your host, Brian Payne. That's me. Hey, let's put on a show. I'm joined in the studio by the vibrant velvet voice of my lovely wife, Skywalker.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Welcome to the show, everybody. It's St. Patrick's Day, and we're here talking and per usual, the wife and I will continue to discuss Osamu Tezuka's 8-volume manga masterwork, Buddha. Wait a minute. We're not doing that this week. We've decided to take that show off into its own thing and have it be its own thing. We're going to start doing continue our Buddha commentaries in the future in little short 5 to 10 minute, 15-minute episodes where it's just Skywalker and myself discussing Tezuka's Buddha. It seemed unfair to keep people in the green room captive while we discussed Tezuka's book, and also YouTube likes short little videos. So we're hoping that if we do a bunch of little videos on Buddha on the same topic, that maybe our viewership will grow. Who knows? It's worth a try. So what's new, Skywalker? What are you up to?
Okay, I'm up to a lot of things. I'm going to be launching a Patreon page and a podcast app, and I've been writing more blogs, and that's about it. The podcast app will be Vibrant Velvet Voice, and it will have awesome anti-racism stories and relaxation vocals.
What are relaxation vocals? Tell us.
It would be like some people call them visualizations, some people call them meditations, but it would just, because everybody says when they listen to my storytelling, my voice is so relaxing. So I figured I could make some short, like 3-minute little shows that'll help people can play to get them relaxed, to help relieve stress and worry, those types of things.
Okay. And what your website address will be in the copy below this video, so people can go there and find out what you're up to, correct?
Right. And it's vibrantvelvetvoice.net.
Okay. Now, there's something else we've been doing.
All right. We've been working on our second well, it's not really the second, but on a big collaboration in terms of art and poetry. The first one was was when you started working with my haikus, and this is one of my poems, a poem that I first wrote when I was a freshman in high school. And I have to ask you though, because I've forgotten, what prompted you? Oh, I remember. You should talk about what the original idea was when you first started talking about using my poetry, what you were trying to do. Remember?
I don't, but I do remember that this started out, it was going to be a Christmas gift. Then it was going to be a birthday gift. Then it was going to be an anniversary gift. Then it was going to be a Valentine gift. And in the end, it ended up becoming something I'm still working on. It's a very hard project for me. You wrote this poem when you were like 14, 15 years old, which amazes me because I've always liked this poem by you. And I'm trying to do the poem justice, so it's taking a lot of time. And it may look like just some dolls reciting your wonderful words, but there is meaning behind it. Like the polar bear may represent whiteness itself, or it may represent me. The dolls may represent you. They may represent the entire African American race and women in general. It's really a deep project for me. I think it's an important work, just like I think what we're doing over on Instagram is important. And I've been posting this on my Patreon page, but I've also started posting it on my website, zinccomics.com. And but it's about 5 weeks or so behind what I'm doing on Patreon. This will eventually be published as a comic for my Patreons, and it will be exclusive to them. I like this. I'm trying different media. Here, I was drawing in pencil, and it just wasn't quite working. I was just using a #2 pencil like you used in primary school. But then here I switched to a Prismacolor black colored pencil, like I do for the Zinc Comics unorthodox portraits that I draw on Instagram. And I really liked the way that was coming out. But this is like a story within the story. So I've recently gone back, but I didn't want to go back to this pencil. So I went back instead to a now I'm doing them straight to ink. I'm doing no penciling. I'm using ballpoint pens. So anyway, once again, zinccomics.com. This is on that, and this will be published as soon as it's done. I'm on page 15. I see it as about a 22 to 24 page comic. So we'll see how that goes. And again, I'm going to print copies and release it only to my Patreon. So if you want a copy, become a Patreon. The links are on zinccomics.com, and I believe somewhere on this channel as well. So check it out. Anything else happening, Skywalker? I know what. Why don't again, when you wrote this poem, I Am, I want to backtrack here. You wrote I Am when you were 14. Take us through what caused you to write it, and then you published it in a book, and tell us a little about that publication.
Okay. Yeah, I'd forgotten. The reason I wrote it was I was attending an all-girls school in Chicago, which was next to a convent. And I was in the pre-vow convent program to be a nun, but went to the regular high school with other girls, 300 other girls. And I was the only Black child in the school. And this was in Norwood Park, Chicago. And it was a Resurrection Convent, hospital, and school. And those nuns had taught in my hometown of Panama City, Florida. And my best girlfriend, who died, was going to be a nun. So I decided after she died that I wanted to be a nun. And everything was all right in the school, and I was with the girls mostly. We had, lived in the convent. We were all just out of middle school. But at that time, when I started school, the Martin Luther King and other leaders were in Cicero and suburbs of Chicago demonstrating for open housing and improved housing for Black people. And I got really shocked and surprised when I heard classmates who didn't think it was a good thing. And that's when I started studying Black history, and I wrote this poem. And I remembered in art class, I did a collage of black and white, but that was the beginning of my conscious recognition that being a Black person really was seen as different in the United States.
And again, and then how did you get these published? And were all the poems written around the same time, or are the poems in that book from all different times of your life?
Okay, well, the poem was first published in the school anthology, which I thought was cool, except that they cut the last line of the poem, which was bad. But then after, so years later, this is after high school, after my first foray into college, I'm in my early 20s. I had put together a manuscript and had it published by Third World Press. And this happened because I was enrolled in the first University Without Walls program at Howard University. And the head of Third World Press, which hadn't started actually when he was my counselor, and his name was Don Lee at that time. He changed it to Haki Matabuti. So anyhow, he was supposedly my counselor for the University Without Walls program, which was in writing. And he was not, he wasn't really such a good counselor, but we did stay in touch. So when he started Third World Press, because he knew me and he was doing a series for first published poets, I was in that series. And so this was poetry from my probably a 2 to 3 year period in my early 20s. And so that's how the book got published.
Okay, without further ado, would you care to grace us? Would you, with your vibrant velvet voice, and perhaps read I Am at this time?
Sure. In an ancient sky, the sun blazed upon a woman. The sun blessed a woman whose cry of pain cut to silence the jungle sounds, whose pain burst into one joyous scream, and the earth received one of its own breath. A dark girl child who in time's hand became a Black woman. Beauty sings in her flesh, dark as the midnight sea, rich as the jeweled ebony, royal as the panther guarding her lair. She was, and free, free as the clear night sky, untouched and pure. Rapists of the night stole her home and cast her flesh into a void, and in the day she was shackled, and the night branded her, and she woke with painful cries, the pain of fear that birthed a dark girl child tainted white, and shame burned her flesh. She was black as coal, unlovely, yet of the earth she strived to keep her sable gown unsoiled. Yet lost as a woman whose cry of pain, of despair, and birthed a dark girl child, tainted white, whose flesh wept sorrow. Brown was she as the field she toiled with hate, and time threw her into womanhood, and her cry of pain tore the white heat of day, a cry of anger, and dark girl child born again, tainted white, and tainted white, and tainted white for ages, through the tombs of slavery, through the gallows of rejection, through the hypocrisy of segregation, until Blackness, once beautiful is feared into ugliness for too long, far too long, until out of this pain a cry shatters to silence the world's noise. Out of an embryo of self-consciousness, Blackness is born in its purest essence, free of all but truth, that what was is still, though tainted by a facade of whiteness. What is black and beautiful and royal and free lives now out of fear, out of shame, out of anger. Born as hundreds of years ago, a Black woman of whose flesh I am.
Yeah, that's a heavy poem. That's why it's taken me so long. Each page, it may not look like much, but I have to make sure each page is right because that's a great poem. Today is what? It's St. Patrick's Day. It's my Aunt Jean's birthday. Happy birthday, Aunt Jean. And it's also what? 3 days before spring? The end of the first day of spring?
3 or 4, yeah. If it's the
Okay.
20th or 21st.
Okay, so today we're having this. I'm calling this the winter, the winter episode, or the final episode of winter, or whatever they call those. You know how TV shows now, it's not one season, it's 2 seasons, or it's and they like have a winter break. Anyway, that's what we're doing here. And so I've been trying to do something a little different today, in light of it being St. Patrick's Day and it being the 30th anniversary of my first comic strip, and the fact that it's the spring is coming and winter is ending. Although, as we live in Alaska, it's not exactly ending as quickly as we might hope. We've been having some issues with our car. But anyway, with that in mind, I want to think of something that happens every fall here in Alaska. And here, perhaps you could describe it better than I, Skywalker. And here, take a look, everybody.
Oh, yeah. This is, if you can really, you have to really look, and they probably can see it better on their screens than I can. Oh, now you can see it. That is fireweed. Actually, it's the end of the fireweed. Fireweed is this beautiful red weed or plant that grows here in Homer and probably other parts of Alaska. And you know it's the end of the season and autumn's getting ready to come when you see those white, fluffy, what's left of the fireweed being blown through the air.
Yeah, for a couple days every fall, the air it's almost like snow. The air is filled with these tufts of fireweed seed floating through the air. And once that the fireweed goes to seed, you know that winter's coming on fast. And I just went out on my balcony. This is the view from my balcony, and tried to get a view of these little white seeds floating through the air. It's really quite beautiful, and but again, it definitely singles the end of the good weather. So, news item. You are invited to join us in celebrating 30 years of Zinc Comics, ZN30, from Zinc Alloy to Cosmic Hamlet, from Lost Toys to Midnight Agents. We've been turning pen and ink into Zinc for 30 odd years now.
Well, that was a great commercial.
Hey, you got to plug it while you can. Okay. I want to show another video here if I can. Last time I
Okay.
showed this video, it I didn't have the sound and it really screwed up the video. So we're gonna try it again and hopefully we can hear it this time and that will make it all better.
Yep, this is a really good video. And we can hear it. The term printer's devil refers to the idea that every print shop had a special devil who indulged in minor mischief, such as inverting type and misspelling words. The apprentices were an easy group to blame for such errors, and so became known as printers' devils. The repetitiveness of the work they did, day after day, allows time for the concentration to wander, and many mistakes were put down to the patron demon of scribes, Titivilus. Titivilus is the lord of superfluous language and delinquent letter. He lurked in monasteries, filling his sack with the scribes' errors, an occupation he would carry on following the invention of the printing press. It was said he needed to fill his sack with manuscript errors each day and then haul them off to the devil, where they were recorded against the name of the scribe and pronounced on Judgment Day.
Much better with the voiceover, I think.
Yeah, sounded pretty good to me.
Yeah, okay. Sounded familiar, did it?
Yeah.
Okay. Steve is stepped away from the camera, but I've noticed we've got someone in the green room. So let's bring in the Cosmic Lion himself, Eli Schwab. Welcome to the show, Eli.
Hi,
what's up?
Eli.
How you guys doing?
We're good. You're our first on-screen guest today.
All right.
Thanks for making it to the show. I wasn't sure if you were working or not, but I figured with the holiday, it would the odds be 50-50.
Well, I'll tell you what, I am working, but I still came.
Okay,
I work
good
from
deal.
home, so it's like, take
Good
some time.
deal. Yeah, if you only got 5 minutes and you got to run, that's cool. You know, we're just trying to do a little something different today, and I'm trying to open up the doors and have a few call-ins and maybe touch base back with a few people who were guests on the show in the past. You were our guest on the first episode of this season, so it's only fitting that you close out the show as well. What's been cooking with you since we saw you last?
Not too much, just always working on comics, always working on something new. We got this image grand design thing that is finally done. It's been like literally a year that we've been working on it. So like almost to the day. Like I got the first message about it on my like a birthday trip we took right after the pandemic began. And so, it's like been an entire year of like pandemic cartooning, and now it's finally almost over. So I'm super psyched about that. I can finally break free and do my own thing again. It's good. It's good to like get a big project like that under your belt.
Good deal. And I was curious because I know you do several podcasts and you got a lot of plates spinning. I'm having trouble keeping all my plates spinning at the same time.
Yeah.
I really need a producer. These podcasts take a lot of time, wrangling all the guests and stuff. How do you find time to do work on comics and stuff when you're doing all this other stuff at the same time?
Yeah, it's tough. I don't relax ever is part of it. I don't I mean, I guess I find that I find the joy in working all the time. So then like I'm able to like do the work for fun, because I work my normal job. I work for Apple and I do this stuff and it's boring as hell. And I'm like, so then like when I get off work, I'm like so excited to like edit, which is like the most boring thing, but it's like I'm so excited to like edit podcast and video, and it's just kind of all I do. My girlfriend has like a different schedule than me, so by the time I get off work, she's in bed, so then it's kind of just like I just work all night, deep into the night. I don't like to sleep anymore, so it's just like I just it's all I do, I guess. And
the fact that you don't relax or sleep doesn't really surprise me, Eli. How come is that? Okay. Go ahead, man.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say it's just you dedicate yourself to like your love of these things, and then it's just like it's all you want to do.
Okay, since we last talked, also you announced on the our last episode that you had this big podcast with Diana Schutz and
Oh my God, yeah.
Matt Wagner. How did that all turn out?
Oh, it was amazing. Diana Schutz, Matt Wagner, Teddy Christensen, and Tim Sale, and we talked all about The Devil Child, 2-issue miniseries that Diana wrote. Her first and only big full comic that she wrote. It's super, I don't know if you've read it, but it's not like a fun comic. It's not a happy comic. It's very dark and very, it's about this girl, Stacy Palumbo, who was raised by Grendel, and it's about her like terrible, terrible life. And so it's a heavy book to talk about. So while we were like jovial and having fun, and it was like a very family, environment, once we started talking about it, it got kind of deep. And it was like a reflection of like a tough time in Diana's life. So it was very cool to talk with all of them in this family environment and kind of become part of the family. It was awesome.
Yeah, sounds like. And then another thing, you are one of the moderators or the originator. I don't know who started it, but of the Cartoonist Kayfabe Ringside Seat Facebook group. And recently you all had a symposium. Can you speak a little about that? That looked pretty amazing as well.
Yeah, that was super fun too. We it was Craig CK's idea to start this, and he brought the term to me. And the definition is like it's from the ancient Roman or Greek, and it's supposed to be like a drinking conversation, like a party that's based around like a conversation and trading of ideas. And so it was like super fun just to do that, to like think of that. And then like I had the idea of trying to get like these bigger comic book guests, but not telling people who they are. Like you just got to come and find out. And I wanted to get Jim Rugg, and he was kind of like, oh, I'm traveling, I'm going to be in Florida, so I don't know if I can make it. So then I reached out to another guy, Matthew Allison of Cankor fame, amazing comic, Cankor, and he said yes. And then Jim got back to me and he said yes. So I was like, oh geez, here we go. Double booked with amazing guests. But then Matthew could only stay for like a half an hour, and then Jim Rugg was like, oh, I only have a half an hour, but then he graciously gave like 2 hours and just answered like every single person's questions, was super humble, and that was just like a very fun experience. And we're going to try to continue to do that every first Saturday of the month. on Zoom, and just try to have special guests and bring in creators and have it be like a time where people could come and get their questions answered, or help move their progress along, and can be something that can be really helpful to the other creators in the group. And
Okay.
even if you're not a creator, you can come and just talk comics.
Which is always a fun thing to do. And
Love it.
speaking of which, you got Wizard 2 also in the works, which also is another ringside seat concoction. There's a lot of great artists who are working there, and I know you got your little posse out there, and you guys are doing good things. So that looks interesting as well.
Absolutely.
Anyway, don't go away, but I'm going to be moving around and stuff, and
Totally.
I'm going to drop you back into the green room. We got a couple other guests here, and I will probably get back to you. So, but if you have to go, I really appreciate you dropping in. And again, everybody, Eli Schwab, his information and links will be below. So check out what he's doing. He's a mover and shaker. Your mic is muted, Sky.
Thanks.
And we'll have another guest here, longtime friend Steve Peters, in just a minute. But we now join Pirate Radio Theater, already in progress. Walk in Beauty. Somewhere in the Arizona Territory, the outrider cursed his own bad luck. That damn rattlesnake killed my horse. Now I have to walk in this infernal heat. They say that you don't know a man until you've walked in his shoes. The moccasins were once worn by an Indian, yet the outrider didn't know the Indian any better after the long walk. He'd killed men in the border war without any reservations, but killing the Indian had been different and left him filled with remorse. The memory of the dead man still haunted him like a ghost. Yate. After the trek to Bosque Coronado, instead of returning to Fort Defiance, the outrider rode into the heart of Navajo country. Was he searching for redemption or death itself? That damned rattlesnake. Some say that his body was found at the bottom of Canyon del Morete. Still others tell of him fighting alongside of Manuelito. But no one really knows what became of the outrider. And now I'd like to welcome to the show, from the comics verse, Steve Peters. Welcome to the show, Steve. Your mic is muted, and so is yours, Sky. So,
Hi, Steve.
Hi, Brian. Nice guy.
okay, now we're all talking on the same page.
It's actually called the comic verse.
The comic verse. What did I call it?
Comics verse.
Okay. So, I appreciate you dropping by the show tonight. What do you got going on in the comic verse?
Well, I'm finishing up my solo book because a few years after we started, Bianca got her own solo book where she wrote the stories for other artists to draw, and you did one of those, if you recall.
I do. What was it called again? Oh, no, you didn't.
Oh, no, they didn't.
Oh, no, they didn't. Yes.
Yeah, so now I'm finishing up my own version of that, where some of the stories are written by other people and I'm illustrating them. And some of them are just like plain out my stories. And I write them and draw them, which is what I'm doing right now. I'm doing the last story of that series, of that the first issue of that comic. And I'm writing and drawing it, and It's it's a semi-autobiographical story. And there's like a character that I use in place of myself, who's a Lekru, which is a comic verse alien. And so he's going to a futuristic Yes concert, and he drinks soda, and soda is like banned for his species because of the effect it has on them. It's like this. Have you read Dune? It's like the spice in Dune.
Okay.
Are you familiar with that?
I to be honest, I haven't read the book. You have, haven't you, Scott?
Yeah, but they talk about it in the movie.
Yeah, I've
And
seen the movie.
yeah, I remember, spice is.
Yeah, the spice is the most valuable commodity in the universe, or something along those lines. So, and it has, different effects on people and makes them more powerful, or, gives them visions, or, things like that. So it's that kind of idea. It's like
and this is soda that it's soda pop, like
yes, because that's the effect it has on this species of aliens.
So in this universe, the Coke still has the cocaine in it, I guess. No, I'm just kidding. Stoner jokes. Anyway, so you also are do you still publish your webcomic every Wednesday, or is that, does it go into hiatus at times and only when you have a new storyline?
So every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday.
But it's, it's whatever I'm working on. So sometimes it'll be Subspace Chatter, which is a completely different thing. It's like a podcast in space, a space cast. And, it's the characters from the comic verse, but they're doing a podcast and they're talking about a movie or a TV show or, something or other. And it's a much more cartoony style. And sort of like chibi manga style.
And you just did something with the Sinkovich challenge. Talk about that.
That was a Subspace Chatter story. So, and Subspace Chatter is what's coming up next. We have the issue done and it's ready to go, but I'm so late with this book of mine. I feel terrible about it. We did the Kickstarter for it, and it was supposed to come out in September of September 2020. And so like I'm way behind on that. So I can't publish anything until like I'm done with this book, so I can fulfill the Kickstarter rewards like 6 months later now.
I think people are kind of used to that, and you've always been good in the past. So I think, you get a little bit of grace period there, mate.
It's frustrating though, because I have like 2 projects that are done and ready to go. And like, I want to do the Kickstarters for them, but like, I feel honor bound to, finish this project first.
The fact that you feel honor bound doesn't surprise me neither. But anyway, go ahead.
So Subspace Chatter is the podcast comic, and we have issue 3 done and ready to go. And this issue is going to be the quarantine issue. And because it all relates somehow or other to the our quarantine, because sci-fi, the best sci-fi like represents what's going on now. So we had the characters in quarantine for the whole issue because of a virus, and so one of the stories they do is the viruses of Star Trek, and they do a whole podcast about that. And we have illustrations by different friends of ours. Some illustrations are by me. We illustrate the episodes of Star Trek that they're talking about throughout the podcast. So we have some, really nice drawings by other people in there. And we do that with you sometimes, Brian, when you can. You're in Subspace Chatter number 2, I guess. And I don't remember if you're in the first one, although there's a character based on you in Subspace Chatter also.
Yeah, I get around.
But anyway, where I was going with that is, so there's 3 stories in the new Subspace Chatter. The Sienkiewicz one is, kind of tangentially related to the quarantine because it's based on the Sienkiewicz challenge that happened last year. And I felt it happened during the quarantine, and I feel like, a lot of the artists that responded like were doing it because, they had a lot of time on their hands, so they could do these like amazing Sienkiewicz drawings. Well, they're not well, some of them are, Sienkiewicz-ish, but a lot of artists did it and through this challenge in their own style. But the challenge is to use this pose that has been like semi-controversial because Bill Sienkiewicz posted the thing that started the whole challenge was Bill Sienkiewicz posted this kind of risque poster of picture of himself, a reference photo that he shot of himself, like firing a gun or like over his shoulder, but it shows his butt and he's got like a black centered shape over his butt. But a lot of people laugh about that, and so all the submissions to our piece, we asked a bunch of artists to do submissions for us, and I did drawings in the styles of other people as well, including one of yours, Brian. I used one of your characters and tried to imitate your style as well as I could.
I'm honored as always.
Anyway, that's the Sienkiewicz one. Is like the character based on me again. His name is Esteban.
Okay.
And so he that's how it relates to the quarantine also, is like he the comic shop, which is the main story, is that it's a comic book shop in outer space. And during the quarantine, the comic shop is closed, so they're not getting any income. So this Esteban character like does the Sienkiewicz drawings as like a fundraiser for the comic verse. This is within the story, not in real life, but so that's again how we're relating things to quarantine, is quarantine type experiences.
Yeah, that sounds really great. So this will come after your solo book, correct?
Yeah, as soon as I get that done and printed, then the Kickstarter goes up for the Subspace Shatter #3.
Well, why I got you on the line, I've done some work for your Yes fanzine, which is a great fanzine about the prog rock group Yes, which both you and I have a soft spot in our heads for. And I've got a ton of stuff here for you, but I've been having trouble finishing anything. I'm like 3 pages away from finishing a comic book. I'm trying to do this thing with Skywalker, and doing a page a week if I'm lucky. And then I've also got your a bunch of new stuff for your Yes fanzine, and some of it's partially inked, some of it's not, and it's just like I'm just finding trouble finishing anything. But don't worry, I haven't forgotten you, and I think you'll be surprised and pleasantly happy with some of the stuff I got coming. I basically got the 2 new guys covered. I got the Buggles, both of them covered, and I also got Mraz and Bruford covered. So I think that pretty much covers most of the missing pieces. So anyway, I'm going to get you a couple things shortly just so you have something, but I'm glad to know that you're not waiting on me this time. So, but I haven't forgotten you. Okay, Steve?
Sure. Well, I have, an idea of what the next Yes fanzine is going to be, but I'm still a ways away from like, getting to work on it.
Okay.
But I have some amazing pictures from 1976 from the Solos tour. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Does it have the light show or not?
A little bit, but it has the Crab Nebula.
Yeah.
It's that period.
Right. I saw that tour, but I saw it outside. So they didn't have the whole light show that tour. I saw it in Chicago, and the next day we almost drove to Detroit to Cobo Hall to watch it because we wanted to see the light show. And that show's the one that ended up getting recorded on Yes shows. There's a lot of recordings from Detroit in that. So I could have been at that show, but we chose not to do it. Anyway, Steve, I appreciate you dropping by. I've got a few other guests in the waiting room, so we're going to get to them. You can stick around. We might at the end have a group talk where I try and get as many people who are left in the green room on all together and introduce you all. But right now, I want to get on to the next guest, and we'll get back to you. I truly appreciate you stopping by. Steve's information will be listed below. And so check out the comic verse. That's the comic verse. Comics verse, that's a whole nother thing. Okay. Thanks again, Steve. I'm putting you back in the green room for the time being. Stick
Bye,
around, though.
Steve. Nice seeing you.
Oh, wait, Steve, while you're here, I forgot something.
Yeah.
We've been doing this Reading the Buddha book. I don't know if you've heard any of the episodes, but I know that because I mentioned it, you read it as well recently. Any thoughts on that subject? I meant to ask you.
Beyond what I told you, or what I told you that I.
Well, reiterate what you told me already.
I was disappointed that he took liberties with Buddhist canon. That it's a made up story basically, as far as I can tell. He uses names, historical names and all that, but it's not a historical story whatsoever. So it's just kind of disorienting. It's like would you do a comic like The Further Adventures of Jesus, like with made up stories about Jesus? It's just kind of weird.
I'm not so sure there ain't several of those out there already. So anyway, I've actually got one in mind myself, but anyway, Sky, we're only briefly in it. And as you know, my wife's a practicing Buddhist and she's coming to that realization too. But I don't want to give away, I don't want to give away the story. We've only read about 4 or 5 chapters so far. Are you finding what Steve just mentioned, Skywalker, as well?
I know. Well, we haven't read that much of it. But the thing is, it's like, so far, what I've gotten is, it is a made up story in terms of the character Chopra and that. But we've already gotten to the part where he's introduced the actual parents of the Buddha, who were Maya and the king, Shuddhadana. And I don't know about the battle before that, if that's an historical battle, but I do know that the Shakyas had wars with other people, and I can't talk about the future, but that's historical. And the other thing is that Buddhism uses all kinds of stories for teaching. And the first story about the rabbit is definitely a Jakata tale in which the rabbit represents a past life of the Buddha. And so even when they talk about, when the king talks about the animals, he couldn't kill animals anymore. That's dealing with the whole aspect of not killing and protecting life, which is essential, which is the main tenet of Buddhism, of having compassion for people and animals and all sentient beings. And so I think so far what I've seen him doing is incorporating Buddhist teachings in the story, so that unless you've really been practicing for a while, people might miss the stories, but they'll still pick up in a way the teachings. Because even if someone's not a Buddhist, and maybe someone's a hunter, and maybe they were hunting for sport like the king did, but when the animals turned to him and smiled, he couldn't kill them anymore because he thought it was for the chase. Someone else who's a hunter might think about that and say, well, why am I caught up in this chase to kill animals that I'm not eating? So that's how I see it, is that so far I found it interesting and entertaining, and I love the artwork.
When we're further into the story, Steve, feel free to come on the program and say I told you so when Sky starts getting crestfallen. When the main criticism of the book that I find is the one that you're making, Steve, that it, with the name Buddha, you expect something a little more historically relevant. And so I think your criticism is valid. I've heard it levied against the work several times.
Well, I'll tell you what is I like devoured the first 7 books. Like I just like really enjoyed it for whatever reason. And I don't know if it's at that point where I was like, hey, wait a minute. And, then checked, if there was any historical accuracy to it or not. But I think I probably would have checked before that. But for some reason, like after the 7th one, like I just lost interest, and it took me a long time to finally finish the last book. And I don't know why that happened, but I just hit a wall after the 7th one. But up to then, like I was like really enjoying. Also, like it's just such an incredible achievement. Like the quality of the artwork and it's just sheer amount of it.
Yeah,
it's just amazing.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. But so I'll be looking to see what happens when we get to the 7th one, which might take us a while.
Yeah, at
we're
the
just
rate we're
reading them.
going.
And it also might be, Steve, that even though you might not have consciously been receiving Buddha's teaching, subconsciously, I think you were getting some things. And it might also, sometimes people reach blocks when you get oversaturated. And if you were reading all of that real quickly, I could see reaching a point where you had to say, oh, I can't take it anymore, and coming back to it. Because it's heavy, even if it's a made-up story dealing with heavy stuff.
Oh, well, I'm deeply into that kind of stuff, so that's probably why I was, enjoying it so much.
Yeah, well, I have to worry. I always, whenever anybody buys a comic and they say they did so because I mentioned it, I always like hold my breath because, my tastes are not exactly what everybody else likes. But you and I have a lot of similar aesthetics, I think, Steve. I could be giving myself more credit than I deserve, but I've noticed in your work that you and I both kind of touch on similar themes at times. So I thought you would like the book, but again, I've heard that criticism that it's not exactly historically accurate quite often. So,
well, exactly what I was looking for. So it came at the right time when you said it.
Yeah, that's the reason I want Sky to read it with me so she can say, or yeah, or explain this or that. Anyway, once again, I knocked you out back into the green room, and then I pulled you back in to talk about Buddha. Thanks. We're going to do that again, and we're going to move on here. Stick around if you can, and we'll have a group hug at the end with all the guests in the green room. So thanks again, Steve. And let's see here. Okay, let's see here. I had a screen share set up, but I guess I waited too long to share it. So the link didn't work. So here we go. Okay. I've done a lot of work for Johnny Dragon. I've drawn a lot of album covers for Johnny Dragon's musical projects. Back in Chicago, the Dragons, Decor de Samba, and Asphalt Blue, my own group, used to share a practice space in the basement of the Flatiron building in a old air raid shelter. So I got to know the Dragons well, and I've been a fan of their music. The first album, Dragons, I shamelessly stole the dragon tattoo, the shadow tattoo from Mike Grell, and the Glenn and the, what is that book? Green Arrow. Green Arrow. Sorry about that. I had a brain fart there. Hold on a minute. I got to make sure that the music plays here. I want to play a little music. I think it's time for a little music here. Don't you all think that? Sky, your mic is muted again.
Yes, I think it's time for some music.
What in the meantime, while I'm finding this, could you maybe tell us a story?
Okay, I'll tell you a short story. This is an African.
Get a little closer to the mic. You're a little quiet all of a sudden.
This is an African folk tale that comes to us from West Africa. There was this village located near a marsh, and the people were happy and got along well with everyone except for the chief. He was one of those chiefs who had to make sure everyone knew he was in charge. And it made him be a kind of mean guy at times. And everyone in the village did exactly what he said, and most of them were really afraid of him, except for one elder grandmother. And even though the chief was mean, he did respect his elders. So one night, though, when everyone's sleeping, the chief wakes up and he goes outside, and all he can hear is ribbit, 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 ribbit. The frogs from the marsh, singing as they had every night. But this night, the chief believes they're keeping him awake. So he says, I order you to be quiet. Ribbit, 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 ribbit. The frogs weren't going to pay any attention to him. And so the chief stood up there all night, ordering the frogs to be quiet, getting frustrated, getting more angry, so that just as the sun was coming up, he went out into the center of the village with a drum, beat the drum, and as people ran out of their homes, he said, get your machetes and axes and clubs and go and kill every frog in the marsh. And people looked at him like he was crazy. And somebody said, Chief, you really don't mean that. He said, do as I said or you will suffer. So everybody went to do as he said, except for the grandmother. And she walked straight up to him and looked him straight in the eyes and said, all things are connected. And he looked at her and said, get out of the way, old lady. You can't do anything. Now, after they killed all the frogs, everyone in the village was sad, and most of them couldn't sleep for a few nights, except for the chief. But after a while, people started sleeping the way they used to. But soon they started to hear another sound, and it was zzz, 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 the sound of mosquitoes. Because, you see, the frogs used to eat the mosquitoes. And without the frogs, the mosquito population was exploding. And it got so badly that the little babies, even under the nets, were getting bit too much by mosquitoes. So one morning, the chief got up. Sun was shining. He walked out into the center of the village, looking around to see people as he usually did, but he didn't see anybody. Now he had his cowtail switch with him, switching off the mosquitoes, and was walking and looked into a home here and a home there and didn't see anybody. And as he walked through the village, he realized no one was there. Because in the night, the people finally left and located themselves another village near another marsh. And as he stood there, swishing the cowtail switch to get him get the mosquitoes off of him. All he could remember was the wise words of the elder grandmother. All things are connected. And now he knew exactly what she meant.
Thank you, Dazzlebell. That was wonderful.
You're welcome.
And now, without further ado,
Can you turn it up, baby? Brian, can you turn it up?
okay, I know that the volume was a little low, but there was nothing I could do to adjust it, despite my despite my wife's pleading for me to do so. But that was the Dragons, and that's from the Lovemakers record. No, not the Lovemakers record. I forget the name of the first record, but it's from the Dragons, and that was Johnny Dragon. And I will have the information to his Reverb Nation page below this video, so check it out when you got time, and blast that music to your own eardrum volume. And right now we have in the studio coming to us Lorraine Villela. Hello, Lorraine.
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Okay.
Hi, Lorraine.
Hi, Sky.
Now, Lorraine, you're here. You're the Darshan Studios resident translator. So you're here to translate Portuguese for us again today, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And we're here to ask Johnny Dragon a couple questions. Is he available? Hello? Can you hear me, Lorraine?
Yes, I'm sorry, Brian. Yes, I believe he is. Yes.
Okay, let's talk to Johnny. Is he on the phone or is he in the studio?
He is on the phone. Can you hear him?
No, I cannot. Are you there, Johnny? Come in, Johnny. I'm not hearing him. No, I am not.
There he is.
Estou aqui.
Okay, I guess he probably is not on the phone anymore.
Hello, hello. Come in, Johnny. Test 1, test 2. Well,
technology, that's how it is. Technology, we always have issues. Just have to deal with.
Yes, indeed. What were you going to say? Sky, why don't you share us another poem with us while we try and work this out, okay?
Okie dokie. This is called, it's a short one. Observations of a Saturday night crowd. A smoky kaleidoscope my people create, fashioned in coal, khaki, and cream. Sown from spring soil, they stream in tones of acorn and chestnut ornate. A dusky rainbow they unfold, eclipses of David's cloth in ink and alabaster. Groomed from the dark that precedes disaster, they glisten in glimpses of gold. Subtle as autumn's sober hues, a variegated harmony of delight, my people of sable sight redeem dingy chalk avenues.
Another great poem there.
That was, and that was written in the style of a sonnet.
Well, let's see here. We're having some technical difficulties with Brazil, but let me see here what we can do in the meantime. There was something I wanted to mention, but I can't think of it right now. I guess we should just play another Dragon song because they're off camera right now. And no, Sky, I cannot turn up the music any.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, so I guess he has problems with the phone. His microphone cannot connect for some reason. So whenever you're ready, Brian, he can answer your questions here.
That's even better.
All right.
Okay, Johnny,
Yeah, Johnny.
welcome to the show. Would you agree that it is important to study music history and to listen to both blues and rhythm or country music to understand the roots of rock?
Olha, desde que esse vírus matador começou, os índios aqui na Amazonas começou de entrar mais por dentro da floresta, porque ali ele se esconde do vírus. Eu vou fazer a mesma coisa.
What did he say?
Yes.
That's really all he said? Man, he sure said a great deal in a few words. Johnny, is there any message you would like to give to any longtime fans listening in right now?
Esses caras que falam que gostam do meu arte, eu não acredito em nada que eles falam, só se eles mandam dinheiro. Para eu conversar com alguém ou falar alguma palavra com alguém, eles têm que me dar pelo menos R$ 1.000.
And what was that he said?
No.
Come on. How can that possibly be everything? Oh, well, we've only got a few seconds left here, Johnny, so I don't know. Say something outrageous.
Quando eu estou querendo sentir mais tranquilo, eu gosto de ouvir o lindo canção do sabiá, que fica nos árvores cantando.
Would you try and translate all that for us, please, Lorraine?
On the advice of counsel, I invoke my Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination and respectfully decline to answer your question.
Okay. I'm afraid there's always a little something lost in translation, folks. Okay, I'm sorry to disappoint everyone, but there isn't going to be any cliffhanger ending left to be resolved next season in our big winter finale tonight. We've chosen to go out on a high just the same, however. In my hand, I hold a spliff of Bruce Banner, and I'm going to light this bad boy up on the air right now. Will I turn into the Incredible Hulk, or will I get the fear? There's really only one way to find out, isn't there? Oh, and don't try this at home, folks, as it is both legal in the state of Alaska, and I'm a highly trained professional. So anyway, we're going to get this ready. Sky, why don't you tell us one last poem while I'm getting this ready, would you?
Okay. This is the last poem in this book. Well, I'll read two because they're short. That we may be. Let us remove the shields from our eyes that we may see our sameness. Release our clenched fists that we may join hands and create. Open our closed ears that we may hear the other's song. For our peoplehood will never rise until we find the strength within the other. Let us discover the meaning of family that we may be. And this is called The Calm. Quiet. Rays of the sun filter through piled clouds like light reflected from cut prisms. Silence. The gray cloud crawls across the pied sky like a huge spider inching its way quickly against the white, motionless whispers and the blue hush.
Thanks again, baby doll. And okay, I want to issue this warning as well. Marijuana has intoxicating effects and maybe, you know, I cannot read this small type. Habit forming. It may be habit forming. So anyway, don't try this at home, as I told you. I'm smoking Bruce Banner, and when I get angry, I turn into the Incredible Hulk. Rawr. So we'll see how long this takes to take effect. And if the whole show goes off the air, hey, I'm a Luddite and I'm high. Watch out. While I sit here and enjoy this spliff, I'm going to play another Dragon song for y'all. Turn up your computers loud, would you? Let's see here. It's not playing. Oh, shoot. I didn't share the, I didn't have the sound on, so I got to shut this down. Stop screen share. Share screen. See, if you don't click this little share audio thing when you make the share, you don't get the audio. It should be the reverse, I think, but let's try this again. Turn it up loud.
And I love her all I've got. Yes, I did. I would never betray her or give my love away to another. I can't understand. How could she go? I don't know. Oh, sure, I'll always love her. And there just won't be anyone who could take her place. No, there won't. Oh, I know I'll never live to forget her. She's always on my mind. This feeling in my heart will last till the end of time. I don't know what's gonna happen if I can't get to see her again. I'll be loving her all my life. I'd wait forever, touch the whole world over, to be back in her arms. I'll be always loving her, and I will till the day I die. Till the day I die. Oh!
And once again, that was Johnny Dragon, Till I Die.
Yeah, that sounded great.
Okay.
I don't know what you did, but the sound came through great.
Okay. Or maybe it's just because I'm high and everybody's getting the transmission from my noggin. Anyway, the show is coming to a conclusion, and this is the point where we would usually close the doors and cut the show off. Hold on a minute here. There's something I gotta find. Okay. Quite often I found after the shows, guests would hang around and we'd chat afterwards, and it soon became very apparent that these conversations were often better than those that we had just recorded. And tonight was kind of an effort to try and capture some of that kind of thing on air. And we broke the fourth wall and invited our audience into the studio. But I'm just now realizing that I may only be able to have 5 guests on the show at the same time. And right now I currently do. So I'm going to bring everybody back into the studio and then open it back up and see if anyone else joins us before I sign off. So let's see here. We're bringing back Lorraine. Come in, Lorraine. Return Eli. Come back, Eli. Return Steve if you're available. His mic is muted and he's off camera. He's back. This is the whole gang tonight. It's hard to talk at one time, but I want you all to meet each other. Steve Peters, that guy on your, it would be my right, perhaps your left. I always get confused with stage direction, is Eli Schwab. To your left there, Eli, is Steve Peters, great cartoonist, great musician. Eli Schwab is, oh, great, you're doing the Brady Bunch thing. That I love it, and so anyway, and then up above you is Lorraine Villela and Johnny Dragon. Are you there, Johnny? Hello, Johnny. And then, of course, there's Skywalker and myself, the disembodied voices from Alaska. So anyway, yeah, I was just realizing, guys, that I may only be able to have 5 people in the show at one time. So there may be people wanting to get in, but I just wanted to see all of you on camera at one time. And then I'm going to let, if a couple of you could sign out and we can see if anybody joins in. If not, that's pretty much the program tonight. Anybody have anything they want to say, or did the program raise any questions? Or, I knew this was going to be kind of a ramshackle mess, but that's what I decided to go with. It is St. Patrick's Day, so I figure ramshackle messes are kind of par for the course. I don't know about y'all, but I spent a lot of time in Chicago, and they dyed that river green every year, and I think it's permanently staying green. Water's kind of green, but look at the river in Chicago if you're ever there and tell me, is that natural? But anyway,
I know they did it today again. I saw it on TV.
Sky was wondering about it. Sky was wondering if the environmentalists had gotten to him or not. So
not yet. Yeah. They did it again today.
Okay, so anyway, again, Johnny Dragon will be, his information will be below. Check him out on Reverb Nation and play his music loud. And then Eli Schwab, he has a lot of sites and a lot going on. I'll have his website below. He does podcasts. He's a publisher. He's a cartoonist. And he's working right now. So he's a multitasker, as he said, he just doesn't sleep. Is that some of your stuff that you're working on now?
That is, yeah. I did it at the last Ringsidethology, the monthly zine that we do together. We redid our redid childhood drawings that we had and found. And so I found a super old Ninja Turtles drawing that I did, and I kind of reworked it and put it into a cartoon, into a page story there.
Wow, that's great. I loved it. And I love to see your cat too.
Right? This is Raja. He likes to be on podcasts as well.
Hey, Raja. Can you say hi to us? You're so beautiful.
When I saw that idea that you were drawing old childhood drawings, I was like, I don't think I have any old childhood drawings. I was like, I don't know that I could do this. But I do remember when I was like in 2nd or 3rd grade, I drew a poster for the Shindig, which was like some sort of dance. And I drew Robert Crumb's Mr. Natural, and I wrote "Truck on over to the Shindig." And this, I was like in 2nd or 3rd grade, and I really had no idea of what Crumb comics were, but I had seen the poster, Keep on Trucking, and Mr. Natural, obviously, somehow. So, because I really didn't start reading comics till I was older. So I was but that made your drawing childhood drawings made me realize, well, I had like a subconscious impression of Crumb at a very early age because I knew Mr. Natural and the phrase "keep on trucking." So
Yeah, me too, man. That was something my dad had this shirt. I used to always go through his old shirts, and I found an old shirt of his from college that was "Keep on streaking," and it was the guy, but he was naked, and I was like, "Oh, that's great."
I remember that crazy fad too, but that was a little after this time. But that would have been the only thing I could have drawn for that. Okay, so again, Steve, anything else going on there?
No, just trying to get this project done, and the next few that I have like lined up and almost either ready to go or almost ready to go.
Okay, and you're also a musician. I had originally asked you to come on and play tonight. Did you recorded some stuff during the lockdown? Did you not?
Yeah, that's one of my other projects that have one album ready to go. It's also like kind of pandemic inspired.
Okay. And you've been doing these improvs on your YouTube channel where you play multiple instruments and do looping. Is that correct? Or was that just a one-time deal?
No, yeah, that's a branch of that same project. This project is called the Fright Watch. That's the name of the band. It's not really a band, but it's just like me and, trying to get other people to improvise with me. And so the looping is a different version of the Fright Watch that's still improvised, but I'm playing all the instruments myself and doing them in loops and making really long loops. So it's I guess kind of, I don't know if it's ambient or how you would describe it, but just weird experimental stuff, I guess.
Very interesting. I really liked. I think I saw two of them. So, or maybe it was just one, but maybe I saw it twice. But anyway, yeah, I like what you're doing there with that. So, and another cat. Everybody has a cat.
I wanted to ask Steve about about his Yes zine, because I also publish a Ween zine about the band Ween.
Oh, cool.
And I also love Yes. I've seen them a few times as well, but
we don't have any pets, but this is our buddy.
Okay, talk about the Yes zine some, Steve. How many issues are you up to? 5?
I have 4 so far.
Four.
And Brian is in every single one of them.
Nice.
He did his Payne's paper dolls. So he did paper dolls of the 5 classic members of Yes, and he let me color them for some reason.
I see in black and white. Yeah, I see in black and white. Yeah, I color is beyond me. So, and I knew paper dolls needed color, to get the full effect.
Yeah.
But immediately when you asked me to contribute something, I immediately thought of Yes's fashion. I don't think enough has been said about it. I mean, during the 70s, they were wearing the wackiest stage costumes in the world. And I used to see them quite often, and they were wearing capes and flowing shirts with wings hanging off the sleeves. And, I really liked it. And I just thought, well, we have to do something about fashion. And I remembered a lot of the teen idols used to have their paper dolls, like the Sean Cassidys and stuff. Or I guess in my case, it would be David Cassidy, not to date myself. But so I thought, well, let's do something like that. And what surprises me is how bemused everybody is by it. And it seems to be always like people are discovering them. Like just the other day, somebody was posting them anew and talking about them, and people were laughing at my paper dolls. So, you gave me a lot of reach there with that. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I've shown them to the members of the band that he was drawing, a few of them, 3 of them, and they were all bemused.
That's a nice way to put it, right? Bemused. Yeah, we'll go with that.
I should add that it's pictures of the band mostly. A lot of mine. The first issue was all mine, and then with the second one, I started branching out and getting pictures from other people, because a lot of people have. I only started doing it, around 2011 or so. So there's a lot that I don't have. Oh, and I took pictures at one show in 1996 in New York, but that's it for before 2011. So a lot of people have like these great pictures. Like this one guy I just met totally by accident in a Facebook group. He posted some pictures in a Facebook group of Trevor Rabin's first gig with the band. I was like, oh my God, can I use these? And he was like, sure. So that was amazing. But like I said, in the next issue I found somebody with pictures from 1976, and that's just like, wow. That's like,
you'll never guess where I saw Yes my first time.
SeaWorld. SeaWorld. When was that?
Yeah, 2010 maybe, and it was free with entrance to the park.
Wow.
Yeah, that was quite a day for sure.
So that's like more or less the fair circuit kind of, but it's SeaWorld, right? The county fair circuit. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
So you said you do a Ween zine?
I sure do. Yeah.
And have members of Ween seen it?
They have. Yeah, I've got Dave Drywitz, the bass player, got upset because I published a story that was like an after party story about him, which I kind of thought was like funny, but as like things progressed in the world, it probably like was viewed as not as funny anymore. But rock and roll stories don't always have their place anymore. But I've interviewed Dean Ween a few times. Gene Ween doesn't seem to care to do any interviews or talk to people anymore. We had Claude Coleman Jr. in there, but not yet with Glenn McClellan, who also played with Blood, Sweat, and Tears for a little while. We don't have him yet, but I've got like comic book artists and comedians to write some stuff. I always adapt one of their songs. I did like a Mobius riff to one of their songs, Buckingham Green. And then I just recently did, for this issue, I did Star Trek, because their song The Rift is based off a Peter David Star Trek novel that Dean Ween bought on the road. And so I did like a Star Trek riff for that one.
By riff, you mean comic riff?
Exactly. Yeah. Kind of like made Jeaner and Diener like the captain of the USS New Hope, and did a fun comic like that. But we got issue 6 pre-orders begin April 1st, actually.
Can we trust you on that? I mean, April 1st.
Yeah, why did I choose that day?
Yeah, actually, I was going to wait for this big bash where everybody came on at once till April 1st. I used to have parties at my old apartment. I moved out and lived above a bar for years, and out of my parents' house. And we used to have an annual April Fool's Day party where everybody had to come wear a funny hat to get in the door. And if they didn't have funny hats, they were provided. So kind of a ridiculous thing. But, I always thought holidays, a lot of them were kind of manufactured, and, I thought April Fool's Day, I could identify with that one at least. I don't know if you all know this, but I did work as a clown, and I did audition for Ringling Brothers for a time. I actually used to commute from the south suburbs of Chicago, 211 South, to downtown Chicago 0 by train, wearing full clown makeup and a karate gi and white elephant bell-bottom pants. And I used to work for the Learning Annex. I don't know if you all remember the Learning Annex, but it was this place that started in New York, then it moved. I think there was one in LA, there was definitely one in Chicago, and they expanded everywhere. But basically, it was a place. It was a meat place. You know, it was. They offered educational classes, and yeah, they offered a few rudimentary computer stuff, but they had weird classes like how to eat an artichoke, and basically it was a way for guys to meet girls and girls to meet guys and stuff, and it was kind of upper crust. And they had Jerry Rubin and Abby Hoffman debate one time. But anyway, I was basically kind of a guerrilla theater and advertising for the learning annex in Chicago, and I would wander around Chicago and create scenes with a couple other people, and it was all to generate buzz for the learning annex. And I actually met Chuck Norris. I touched on this story last week. I met Chuck Norris when he was filming Code of Silence outside the Library of Chicago, and I was standing behind a blue police barricade in clown face, wearing a karate gi and white elephant bell-bottom pants. And somehow Chuck Norris picked me out of the crowd and came up and shook my hand, you know, so I said, you know, I used the I paraphrased what's the duck, Howard the Duck comic, and said, Harley Quinn, master of clown fu. And he shook my hand and looked to one side and said, great, just like that. And anyway, I had to tell that story because I brought it up last week and you just gave me the opening. But yeah, running around Chicago in a karate outfit. I've written chapters of an unwritten autobiography, and the chapter is called Clown White Like Me. And we once during a rainstorm, I went in and watched the Cotton Club at a theater in clown makeup, but I came in late. And then the lights came up and everybody went to walk out, and I sat there watching the final credits, as I always do. And people were surprised to find this clown sitting there waiting till the end of the movie to leave. But anyway, these are stories that will come out in the book, Required Reading for a Rubber Room, or whatever title it has when it finally, whatever the editor comes up with. Anyway, once again, we're going to add Lorraine to the stream. There's Johnny and Sky. Lorraine's mic is muted. Sky's mic is muted. Okay, guys, this is the deal. Today is my Aunt Jean's birthday, my mom's sister. She's the last surviving member of the Camel clan. And she's my favorite aunt, and she's been there for me since I can remember, and for my entire family. So what we're going to do right now, and I hope you'll all join in, is we're going to sing Aunt Jean. For the dear fill in the blank part, we're saying Aunt Jean, everybody. We're going to sing happy birthday to my Aunt Jean here all together. Okay, everyone? Yes. And then that's going to be the end of tonight's show. Okay, a 1 and a 2 and a 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Jean. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Jean. All our love. Anyway, that was kind of weird because we're all like kind of out of sync. So it became this kind. I got the musical performance that I wanted from you, Steve, whether you liked it or not. That was fun. Thanks a lot for taking in. And again, stick around, everybody. And until next time, everyone, We appreciate you watching this season, and we'll be back. Until then, you've got to think zinc. Think a zinca. 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 Think a zinca.